Hi, I'm Thomas Broadhead. I'm the editor of the Critical Performance edition of the Ives Fourth Symphony. And in this video, I want to talk about my experience with the Seattle Symphony in January of 2015 as they prepared for public performance of the new edition of the Ives Fourth under their music director, Ludovic Morlot, and three assistant conductors, Stilian Kirov, Julia Tai, and David Alexander Robbie. This experience is especially memorable to me for a lot of reasons, and to lead into that, I want to show you what greeted me when I entered the backstage of their hall for the first time. So this is what greets you when you go backstage at Benaroya Hall in Seattle, and it says, the Seattle Symphony unleashes the power of music, brings people together, and lifts the human spirit. And it certainly did for me, and I think for everyone that I encountered that week. I mean, really just seeing this set the tone for my experience. They were also incredibly gracious and kind, and I just can't say enough about what wonderful people they all were. Ludovic Morlot was fantastic. He was so personable and so kind, and we spent time together talking about the piece. He was asking me about certain points of interpretation and, what do you think about doing it this way, or what about that way? And so there was this real dialogue that we had about the piece and about Ives. And they only had about 5 hours to rehearse the piece for the concert because they were preparing two different programs that week as it worked out. So their time was limited, but they still gave it a fantastic performance. And the symphony was phenomenal. They had this razor sharp string section that I thought was just fantastic. After the concert, they had me speak to a small gathering of people who decided to, remain to discuss the piece. And I challenged everyone by suggesting that it was the last truly romantic symphony. And there were gasps from this small audience. And then I said, well, it wasn't neoclassical, was it? And, they had these bemused expressions on their faces. They considered my point. And like, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. And, I said, this is old wine in new bottles. It's really romantic in conception from beginning to end. You have to look past the modernity of the writing to see the romantic spirit that runs throughout the entire piece. But before that concert, I was given a little gift. It was a bag of chocolates with this hand-signed note by 12 members of the orchestra and the administration thanking me for coming in and helping them out that week. And I was just blown away. It was so unnecessary, and yet it was just so kind and sweet, and just a fitting end to this lovely experience, which would have begun with this message of goodwill that I read when I walked backstage and saw that broadside I showed you. And then it, ended with this. And, there's this benevolent romantic spirit that runs throughout all of Ives' music, and especially throughout the Fourth Symphony. And there it was, flowing throughout the halls of Benaroya Hall. And then it landed right in this bag that I had with chocolates and this lovely note. And so, I don't know, when you invest in something that you truly care about and you receive something like this, it becomes the most valuable thing that you could receive for all of the investment and all the time and care that you've put into the thing that you care about so much.